Welcome, welcome, welcome to this edition of Sagionic 1027. We are so glad that you decided to join us again for this broadcast. And with us, we have an amazing guest who takes to have fervency, steadfastness, no way, no how, I ain't backing down. She takes it to the next needed level. Okay, so before I introduce our next guest, I want to share a little bit with you about our program. So the word Sagionic means movement by movement in time. And if we think of history, and we know that history repeats itself, right? Any time in history there needed to be a change or a movement, there was a fire or a passion that rose up within a singular human being, which caused them to push forward as a trailblazer, right? Thus creating a movement that in essence created a movement in the land. So that's what the word Sagionic means. The word Sagion all by itself means carriers of wisdom. So our goal here at Sagionic is how do we take carriers of wisdom that have walked out relationally, vocationally, through dreams, visions, through their businesses, whatever it is that they've done, how do we take them and then display them with their strengths and characteristics so that those strengths and characteristics in return can encourage others to walk out with stamina? So it's quite the understatement to say that our guest today, which is Jen Jacobson, and she is the founder of Beloved Cheesecake in the Salem, Oregon region. We're going to hear a little bit about her story and how she had to navigate through hoops and loops out of necessity to be the main provider for her three sons. So I want to share her bio with our viewers because not everybody knows her. Okay. So Jen opened her shop, Beloved Cheesecake, 8 months prior to COVID slash lockdown slash mandates. She was a single mother at the time with three boys. Not little boys, but we're talking boys that need to be fed boys. Okay? Big boys, big boys. Um, she attempted to go along at the beginning with all the mandates that were being set up, however, quickly realized she is essential to her boys as the sole provider for her sons. She didn't close her doors, didn't enforce mandates, and kept her business going. She is a lover slash believer of Jesus Christ and fears God, not man. Staying open, she became a target of hate. However, and basically hate comes through fear, right? Because there's just people just don't understand. However, the Lord protected her and his shop. Jen received 6 OSHA complaints, and she didn't skip a beat. Her town went from loving her to hating her because of her stance. She had someone give her name to Fox News. She went live for an interview explaining her stance, and she was blessed with an outpouring of support from the Fox viewers. She began educating herself on our constitutional rights, hosting freedom rallies with our church around the states, became a precinct committee person, which is a PCP, for the GOP, and supported countless candidates that were running for office in Oregon by hosting many meet and greets and Q&A events for the community. And so I just want to welcome today the founder of Beloved Cheesecake, Jen Jacobson, and the viewers said, so Jen, today's program is all about you, right? And how you're going to take your story, your situation that you had to navigate through, and how it's going to bless others. But before we jump to what happened, how did you even come up with the idea to walk out being a business? Come on, you're a single mom with three kids and a business owner. What were you thinking?
Uh,
Why didn't you just want to stay on a systematic system somewhere?
no, it was God. It was not me. Trust me, it was not me. I did not want my own business at all. Um, no, I came out of domestic violence 8.5 years ago, and during that time, or prior to that, I was a stay-at-home mom. And then after that, I started going back. I was waitressing, and I went back to school, and I actually became a social worker, and I got my degree in 2018. I interned in criminal justice, and so I really thought my path was going to go that way. And yeah, no, God had different plans. He wanted beloved cheesecakes, which is why it's beloved cheesecakes, because I am His beloved and He is mine. So yeah.
Now, okay, so obviously, I like this saying. I have 6 kids, and so growing up with my kids, or my excuse was, I am not sitting at home eating bonbons and getting fat, right? And so you're a petite woman. So how did you get intrigued in the cheesecake in the baking industry?
Yeah, I honestly, I've always loved baking. I think it's because I might struggle with perfectionism a little bit. And with baking, you have to be precise and the measurements have to be all precise. And I like that. With cooking, not so much, you know. So I still, with cooking, I follow recipes. It's really hard for me to um, be venturous and try something. But I I think I made my first cheesecake in the year 2000, and then I just made maybe one a year, and just for fun or a family event. And then in 2015, it was a year after I had been separated from my ex. I was on a program, not sure if you're familiar with it. It's in Clackamas County called Gleaners.
I've
And
heard
it's,
of it.
yeah, and it's a really amazing food share program for those who are um, in need of it, low income. And I end up getting this huge flat of blackberries right before Christmas time. And I thought, what am I going to do with all these blackberries? And like I said, I had been a stay-at-home mom, and now I'm working and going to school. So I wasn't able to be involved with my boys' school like I had been, and it just it really sucked because I loved being involved with their school. So I thought, oh, I'll just make the teachers and staff a blackberry cheesecake to thank them, you know, for they really saw me through and helped me in a lot with my kids. And so I made a blackberry cheesecake. I never made one before. Didn't know if it was all the way finished or if it tastes good. I did not know how to take it off the pan. Anytime I've taken cheesecake places, I just take it on the pan. And thankfully, I had YouTube at that time and learned how to take it off the pan. And I presented it in a nice cake box and gave it to the staff. And then the day of Christmas break, when I was picking up my kids, the secretary said, "Oh, Jen, where did you get that cheesecake?" And I said, "Well, I made it." And she's like, "Get out of here. That was the best cheesecake we've ever had." And I was like, "Really?" And, when you come out of domestic violence, you don't have a lot of worth, and I just didn't see myself doing anything good except for I'm good at talking to people. And so I it gave me the idea of that's what I'd do for Christmas that year for family. And I was also working at a winery, so I'd pair it with wine. And it just so happened to be the very first Christmas without my boys, which was devastating.
Oh,
And making cheesecakes and listening to the sound of music, it became therapy for me. My mind stopped racing. And I posted the day after Christmas my creations and just said cheesecakes made with love this year. I had 3 people reach out to me, ask me to buy cheesecake for if I would make them one for New Year's. And I was like, "You want to buy one from me?" And I just didn't feel worthy of it. And plus, it's hard for me to take from friends. And that is how it started. It was just a word of mouth, and I became a side hustle. And all through my schooling, I would bring cheesecakes when we'd finish a term, and they would just say, "Jen, why don't you open up your own shop?" And it's like, nope, never. I will never own my own business. I'm not going to put that pressure on me where there's expectations. And it's already hard enough already with just one person, and I said, and my ex was self-employed. So I know the work of
okay.
self-employment. And so I was like, no way, I will not ever open up my own shop. And then you say never to God. I didn't know at that time I was saying never to him. But I tried to get jobs after I graduated Portland State and nothing was opening. And I got an order from a friend to provide 250 of their employees cheesecake. So it was like my biggest order. I think I did 24 cheesecakes or something like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not a certified kitchen. I'm doing this out of my house. And do they know this? And she's like, yeah, it's totally fine. And that's when doors just really started opening. Uh, God put a space right in front of my face, and I was like, I don't even know. I don't know anything about business, and or how to even create a space and a shop. And so I talked to the property managers, and I said, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you hold this space for me? It's Christmas time, and this was in December of 2018, I think it would have been. Yeah. And so they held it for me for that month of December, and I started researching what to do. And then a whole Kickstarter was started for me and my boys to start this beloved cheesecakes. And now, I opened in August. I hope I'm doing my dates right. August of 19 is when I opened. So,
Okay.
yeah. Hmm.
Wow. Wow. So it's almost like the business wasn't made for you, but you were made for the business.
I have never thought of it that way, but amen. Yeah.
Neither have I. So it's not my words. It's not my words. The business wasn't made for you. You were made for the business.
Yeah, I have makeup on. I'm not going to cry, but that's going to make me cry. Yeah.
That's a book. The business wasn't made for you. You were made for the business.
I got to write this down. Oh, I
Yeah,
guess
cause
we're filming.
yeah, but
I
this is literally for you because now I'm telling you, there's been tears. All people don't know this, but I interview stacks of people in a day. So today, from the beginning to the end, I will have interviewed 8 people today, and there has
Okay.
been tears flowing. I can't tell you how many times I've cried today. How many times the interviewees have cried.
Yeah.
The sweetness of the Lord today is surreal. It is surreal. Um, so I like how you said the boys and I started the business. So because Charles Engel, people were working in the field, right? And so
Yeah.
picture all these different things that we've seen through the TV, right? My mom used to call it the boob tube, so I never liked the TV because it's
Yep.
sidetracked you. I like the outdoors, right? So share with us how valuable a family business has been with you, clearly a petite woman, raising what I call man sons, especially when they started to age, right? My oldest is 35. So I'd go in public and because there was cougars out there, I would say, "Oh, hi." I would make sure to say son many a times, right?
Yeah.
So share with viewers how important this experience has been in growing man sons.
Yeah, I mean, I never dreamt of this. I couldn't even have fathomed everything that has transpired. And my boys remember we reminisce a lot, and my son Gabe, he's the middle. He would make the crust for me, and so I taught him how to make crust. And he would say, "Mom, do you remember when we went from one at a time to two at a time?" And I would call him up. I would be at school and say, "Hey, we just got an order. Can you make a crust?" And he's playing Xbox and frustrated, and. But yeah, and then my oldest son, who's 20 now, he learned how to bake. So he was baking the cheesecakes. And my youngest son at that time was fairly young, and now he's 14. Um, but they've all played their part. And my oldest son, he was my steadfast baker. When we had the lockdowns happened, I complied for that first 2 weeks, and then we did special orders. And the month of May, I just fell really into a deep depression because I'm such a people person, and not having people walking on the streets, walking by, coming in. It was cheesecakes was my source of joy and baking them for people, and it
Yes.
became my source of pain. And so my oldest
Mm.
son, Chase, he completely took over and was baking. And sometimes I would just be at home on the couch or in the bed, not able to get up. And then Gabe, he loves the people, so he's my customer. He's very engaging with customers, and he's the entrepreneur for sure. My oldest son, it's not his passion. You know, it was for a time he was here in a season, and it helped him make a really. He's a great worker. He works for a company in Woodburn, and he worked there 1 week. I think it was 1 week or 2 weeks, and his boss came to him because he's doing like the lowest job,
Yeah, yeah.
and his boss came to him and said, I've never had someone work like you work, and because of that, I'm going to give you $1 raise. And he had only been there 2 weeks, and he's like, and I'm giving you back pay for those 2 weeks. And I was just like, you know what, that just blessed me so much, because we've gone through hard knocks. My oldest son has had to testify in court on his own accord. And my boys have been through a lot. You know, they've gone through custody evaluations, having their own uh, children's lawyer, and, just thinking about all of it, it's really made them who they are today. I mean, they really are exceptional young men of God for sure. And they're all on fire for Jesus, which is even better.
Oh, that's amazing. I had interviewed a woman within the last week, and she wrote this book, Hope Realized. Hope Realized by Doniel, Doniel, Candy Sims. Okay.
Okay.
And she was a single mom raising two, she had 4 kids, but 2 of them were sons. And she shared how she could not allow herself to become a victim because
Yep.
she was setting the example for her sons.
That's right.
So, can you share with viewers how you had to move forward with the plow, so to speak, because you had eyes, men, future leaders in the land watching you?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
share from that angle that you had to move forward.
Yes. Um, when the separation happened in 2014, there was a physical incident, and it was a Clackamas County sheriff that came out to my house, and he said, "Ma'am, you are not raising boys, you are raising men." And it changed my life. It absolutely changed my life. Those words of, okay, this is not okay. And so that's what started the ball rolling, and I got a restraining order and all of these things. And so with that, oh my gosh, I just lost my train of thought. Sorry.
You had eyes watching you.
Yes, I had eyes watching me. Oh, I did not want to be one of the, and um, I'm not belittling or downplaying single moms that go from guy to guy to guy, because I understand it's a self-worth issue. And I just knew I did not want to bring any men into my kids' life. No man, until they would have to approve. So I really worked on myself. And so I didn't end up in another kind of relationship like I did. And so what I did for my journey is, and I think my boys not having men in and out, I think really helped. Um, but I also, I'm saying a lot. I'm getting distracted. I'm echoing back and forth.
No,
Sorry.
no, no, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine.
Oh, there we go again. So with that being said, as I started the journey of allowing Jesus to be my husband, and then dating myself and getting okay with being by myself, and the first year that we were separated, it was really hard for me to be home on, at that time they were seeing their dad, I think every weekend or every other weekend, and it was just really hard for me to be by myself. So I would be with friends or friends. So that was my first challenge, is staying home for a weekend by myself. And then I conquered that. And then the next challenge that I had was to take myself out to coffee and do something, and not just go in and get coffee, but actually sit down, have coffee. And that took a lot longer. I mean, these did not happen, 1 month I did this and then the next month. No, it was months in between that I conquered these goals. But after that, it was like freedom of, okay, I can go coffee shop, I can read, and it's not awkward. And then I want to take myself out to dinner. And I'm weird. If I'm going to go in, I'm going to go all in. So I'm not going to go to a restaurant that's empty. I'm going to go to a really busy restaurant. So I went to Claim Jumpers in Clackamas on a Friday night by myself. And it was so liberating. And then months later, my big one I was working up towards was taking myself out to a movie. And that one took a long time, but I finally did it, and I went on an opening night of a movie at Bridgeport Plaza, and it was so liberating and freeing. And then I started taking myself to concerts, and by the time I turned 40. So I think it was, my that was for my 40th birthday. The last big thing I needed to do for myself was to go on vacation by myself. And I had a college classmate who was from Arizona, and he knew how much I loved the heat and the sun, and it's in the middle of summer, their downtime. And he said, Jen, I just can picture you at a resort in Arizona, and it's cheap right now to go down there, and you should go. And so I did. I did a 4-day trip. My aunt and uncle paid, they had air mileage, and I got to go down there. And it was incredible, and it was so just Jesus and I. um and I just that was really huge for me, and healing. And like I said, and then some of the things that I would do for my boys too is, I know that I'm inadequate, or I don't know if inadequate's the right word, but incapable of giving them the guy things that they need.
Uh-huh.
And at this time, we separated in 2014, and they haven't seen their dad since 2017. There's been a lot of stuff that has happened. And so at this time, they don't have any male role models. And I had a great college classmate that I brought in and asked him to, mentor my kids. And I would reach out to coaches. And so I was always looking for good, godly men to be there for my boys. And so I think that helped them too, and learn how to treat women as well. And I was learning how,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
friends with these guys who are really actually genuinely nice human being and kind.
Yeah.
And, so they're teaching my boys. And so God provided. He provided mentors and coaches and people in their lives. Thank you, Lord, for that. It's just been really amazing. And then the husband that I have now, I planned on never getting married again. There's another never. I planned on never getting married again. I thought it was just going to be Jesus and I the rest of our
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah.
And so when I met Mackay, yeah, the boys were all gung ho, and they really liked him. And I was like, yep, nope. And so it took a few months of, he says, chiseling, and but yeah, he's exceptional.
So good. So good.
Yeah.
And in the midst of all of this that happened, right? You're growing your business, right? When I met your sons to ask them, could I interview you, right? And it was Gabe that
Yes.
I believe it was Gabe that I spoke with. Um, and I was telling him, I was kind of poking at your sons and laughing at him, because in our family business for 19 and a half years was a house cleaning service, right?
Okay.
House cleaning service. We had employees, a handful of employees over the years that worked for us. But it was all my kids worked in the family business, and they were like, oh, Mom, why do we have to clean houses? I'm like, if God wanted us to have a gas station, we would have been given a gas station. If
Yeah.
He wanted us to have a laundromat, we would have had a laundromat, or a grocery store. We would have had, and you would have worked in that too, right?
Mhm.
And
Yep.
so just and even what you just shared with Chase getting his first job, right? Because in essence, as parents, I call us the parental units, right? As the parental units, it is our responsibility to teach a work ethic,
Yes.
right? So so a chore is not, here, you do this and I'll give you a buck. As,
That's
no, I'm
right.
sorry, you're going to grow up, you're going to get married, and when you come home, you're going to have responsibilities to do around the house, right?
Yep.
And so it's not like you just get to go to work and then come home and then your day's done. No, no, your day's just begun in the relational aspect, right? So,
Yes.
so give us some examples on how teaching your sons that work ethic. You gave an example with your oldest son, Chase, right? How you've seen it affect them, whether it be in sports or education, by you
Yeah.
having that standard for them.
Well, I mean, I've always been that parent that had chores for them. When I started school, I was like, boys, it's a team effort here. Chase, you're going to have to learn how to do laundry. Gabe, your job's the dishes. Jaden, you're taking and putting dishes away, and it's team effort. So we're all in. It's not just one person, it's a team. And so that's just kind of how we operated. And then, starting the business, it was the same thing. Uh, but my boys, I mean, my middle son, Gabe, who runs the shop with me and is the co-owner. I mean, really, he
Yeah,
turns 18
yeah,
in March and he'll be a co-owner. He came to me last year, and he wrote a persuasive essay to me and asking to drop out of high school because he was doing the online school, and it's a joke, the online school. And so in his persuasive essay, he was saying how he's not planning on going to college and that he wants to grow the business. And even if something, God forbid, something happens, he'll go into a trade or do something else. But he said, I'm not socially awkward. I'm learning more at the business than I would be at school. And so I really had to pray about it because our society talks about education and makes it such a big deal. And so I really prayed about it, and I said, okay, well, here's the deal. You're going to finish out the first half of your junior year. You're not going to just, oh, okay, you're going to drop now. You're
yeah,
going to finish it out.
yeah,
And then you can go ahead and drop out, but you're going to get your GED. And then it's been incredible because the kid is wickedly smart. Here's a exciting thing. He's been dressing up in a suit, going to different businesses, getting our cheesecakes in different restaurants. Um, he's got us in. We delivered to Portland Spirit on Friday, and he is 17 years old and sat in front of on an executive board table with six people trying the cheesecakes. And you wouldn't have that experience if you were in, regular high school. So,
yeah. That's
yeah.
really good because if you think of it, right? My one of my granddaughters was here yesterday, and she said so we're known as graham cracker and pop tart. Okay, those are our names.
Okay.
Graham cracker and pop tart. She says graham cracker something because I always ask them, tell me the highlight of your day, but then tell me something that happened at school today that you were like, I don't know about that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And right now they're learning the difference between an opinion and a fact, right? So that day when they came home, I said opinion, fact, and conviction. I added a word, right?
Yes.
And to be able to just share with them the difference, right? Well, so when she came home yesterday, she said, graham cracker, there's something that happened at school today and I didn't like it. And or the day before, and I was like, well, what was that? And she goes, the teacher said that women can't be firemen. And so then I inquired further. So then I broke down autonomic. How do you say that word? Autonom. Come on, autonomy.
Autonomy. Okay, that's what I
Yeah,
thought you were going to say.
but isn't there like mechanically, but autonomous, whatever, however you say
Yes,
that?
yes, yes.
Yeah. So however you say that word, I said, pertaining to that, there is a difference. And sorry if viewers are going to gasp at what I'm about to say, but this is my opinion. My opinion.
Yeah.
I'm gonna voice it as this is my opinion, having raised a stack of sons. Okay, my opinion is that men are normally physically stronger. Okay.
Yep.
They're normally physically stronger. So if a building is burning down, I was explaining this to my 7-year-old grandchild. Okay. If a building is building down, then it would be easier for mankind, with his physical strength to go in and remove a human body out of it. but I said, but that does not mean a woman cannot be a fireman.
Yeah.
However, within the fire station, you will have different roles because
Yes.
your strengths are different. Likewise with your business,
Yeah.
right? So even with Jaden learning,
Yeah.
seeing business, right? So share with us how by being a business owner, by running it as a team, how you've watched different strengths or how you've been able to help them to hone in on what their individual strengths are.
Definitely. One would be Jaden for sure, because Jaden, my youngest, was super shy. Wouldn't talk to anybody. I have friends that knew us for years, and they would say, Jaden has known me for years, and I've never heard him say a word, you know. But having the business has been so good for him, because there's been times where I'm in need. I have to have his help. And, so I've seen his confidence grow, and now he does events with me, which he loves that. We do farmers markets and other events, and he's does really well, and he's become really self-assured, so seeing him grow in that. And then Makai has really helped him a lot too. I mean, he loves to cook. Jaden loves to cook, and so does Makai. So I like to bake, they like to cook. But Jaden has now aspirations of having his own business, his own restaurant someday. And we already have a name, and he's like, I got to start nailing down my recipes. And I'm like, yes, you do. And, so it's like things like that. And
Yeah.
what he wanted for Christmas, because I always give them one thing to read, one thing they need, one thing they want, one thing to share, and one thing to wear. Uh, and for the book, he wanted Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And Jaden's not much of a reader, and he has been reading that book every single day. And I was like, wow. And so then he's telling me what he's learning, So it's just been amazing watching all of them. Gabe is, he started off a little bit more, I'd say prideful. And I know he would share that and say that he was pretty, you know, prideful, and I do this better than my brother because I can talk to the people and stuff like that. But even that has calmed down, and he's humbled himself. And we went to a business conference, and both Jaden and Chase is out of the home now, but both Gabe and Jaden, they went to the conference with us, and they loved it and was just soaking it all up. So it's been amazing watching them.
That's really good. This morning when I just love how the theme, because viewers don't know that I actually interview stacks of people within a day. I have certain days I call are my studio days. And this morning, I was directed to pick up this book that I have in my library. And I'm like, this will be interesting. How's today going to unfold? And yet it clearly unfolds because I'm not getting paid for this, YouTube land. But today's book is Think, Learn, Succeed.
Yeah.
So your Jaden's going to love this because this is Dr. Caroline Lee.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And one thing that's really great about this book, it actually comes with a workbook. Oh, look at that. For those of us who still like paper calendars,
Yeah.
I raise my hand,
Yes.
right? So think, learn, and succeed, right? Well, the thing about it is that, potentially you didn't grow up in an environment of entrepreneurs, right? But your children are growing up in an environment of entrepreneurs, right? And I interviewed this one woman, and she said, I grew up, she didn't use this terminology, but I'm going to use it because it's my terminology and it's my program. But she grew up drinking the Kool-Aid that said focus on the education, right?
Yeah.
So she did that. She focused on the education, and then she kept bouncing from jobs until she realized she had an entrepreneurial spirit.
Yes.
And she was created to be a business owner, right? Because we all have to have different passions inside of us, right? And so I just think it's great what you're doing with your sons in teaching that to them. And, I've known people to verbally shame others who, shot, no shot, mask, no mask, right? But the bottom line is, what would you share is the value of just accepting the human where the human is.
Well, for sure, because that's the heart of a social worker. I mean, that's all of social work, and that's what was so frustrating for me when all this came down, because I grew up not definitely not an entrepreneur. My dad, well, maybe my dad was a meth addict and he had a meth lab, so and he was dealing meth, so maybe, right?
He was an entrepreneur. He was.
Yeah. He was.
Oh
So that's how I grew up. No mom, no siblings, seen a lot of things I shouldn't have seen. Only child. Uh, but with that whole thing, and when I went to social work, their whole thing is about everyone has a sense of self agency, is the word that they use, and that you don't tell a client, you don't tell someone how to live. You accept them where they're at, you meet them where they are. You do open-ended questions of you basically like, how is that working for you? What other options are there that you have researched? Those kinds of things. And so when the mask came down, again, my dad was a meth addict. He had me wear a paper bag over my head, and that was called my thinking cap. And when I don't know if he was coming down or what, it was entertainment for him. And so if I asked to take it off, he would keep it on longer. So sometimes I mean, I'm young, I'm a young kid, I'm asking to take it off all the time. And so then I would have it on all day and I'd fall asleep with it on. So for me, I couldn't do the mask thing. That's my own trauma, my own thing, and I wasn't going to put it on my kids. And I'm very sensitive to those with disabilities and trauma survivors. And so, but doesn't mean that I'm not going to respect you if you're wearing a mask. I'm not going to force you take it off, but it was so hypocritical because it was, you're killing people, you're an awful person. Basically, I felt like I was a leper. I would walk on the sidewalk in my neighborhood and people would walk on the other side of the street. And it was like, I'm not a leper. I mean, maybe I am. I don't know. But Jesus has healed me.
But what's interesting is you said in studying to become a social worker, right? You were being trained to respect people where they are, right? Where these are the boundaries, and clearly, hello. It kind of reminds me of what was that movie called where he was told to plug his ears and close his eye? I love the Sandra Bullock's. Come on, what is that? What is that called? Blindside,
I'm not a
blind,
movie buff.
blindside. You got to watch it.
Oh, yes, yes, yes,
Okay,
yes. Okay.
where he would close his eyes and plug his ears, right?
Yes.
And potentially you wore that bag during some of those situations, but you
Yes.
probably could hear, right? So that was a personal conviction, not an opinion. That was a
Yes.
personal conviction
That's
that
right.
you had, right? And
Yeah.
so it's funny because if I think of our children, like in rearing our children or rearing the next generation, right? Because it's not just the parents because you brought around mentors for your sons, right?
Yep.
And if I think of my children in fighting for them as they were growing up, I remember one of my daughters was just like, oh gosh, is she gonna be the mom voice again, right? And she would just cringe when I'd go into public with her because if something arose, I became this mom voice of
Yeah.
reason. And I didn't know that she was going to, walk the path that she did. And she herself was going to have to become that strong voice,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
What would you speak to viewers on where is a starting point to make their voice count?
I'm a slow processor, so let me think about that for a second. Um, well, I think it starts with having a relationship with Jesus, um, because that's where he gives us the strength and gives us the boldness. It doesn't come from us ourselves. And being able to advocate for yourself, I mean, that's been a huge thing, a learning thing for my kids, is to be able to advocate for themselves, because I think biblically, I was taught to turn the other cheek, love them harder. When they're bullies, you just, turn away. And I look back on that now, and I'm like, oh my gosh, with my boys, I remember my oldest son being bullied, and I was like, oh, maybe what's going on in that kid's life. And I'm trying to be empathetic and
Mm.
trying to teach him to use his voice, and, um, but that it's a hard one because everybody has a different journey. Everybody has different life experiences. So I don't think there's this one size that fits for everybody of how to have your voice. It's practice. It's being in a yeah, I'll give an example. My best
Okay.
friend, I love her to pieces. She's my best friend, and she's doesn't like conflict at all. And so we recently, a couple months ago, there was something that happened and it hurt my feelings, and I'm very communicative. So I was sharing that with her, and she got really, nervous and frustrated. And I said, "No," I said, "Communicate with me. I'm safe. I'm safe. I'm not going anywhere. So this is good. Let's get all of this out. We got to have a full transaction, your end, my end, and have a complete transaction to get through this. Practice. I'm your practice, And so I think it's having safe people in your life that you can be truly who you are. But that takes having relationship and trusting that person too.
That's right. And I'm thinking of a silly song. I don't even know what, I want to say it's a Disney movie, but they said, put one foot in front of the other. Uh, and soon something about success. I don't even know what that's from or where it came from, but it makes me think of that, right? Just
That's true.
one moment at a time, you
Yes.
know? And so I really thank you. I thank you for saying yes to this interview. And I look forward to seeing through the entrepreneurial generation, generational blessings, right? Because I don't know if you think about this, but I think about these things, right? So your grandchildren are already on earth because your future grandchildren are inside of your three sons, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I remember sharing with one of my children, those kids are saying, let us out. And he goes, Mom, that's disturbing. I go, no, because your mother's speaking purely speaking, right? Like, because they're there, right? And
Yes.
it says a righteous man leaves an inheritance for his children, right?
Yeah.
So you have taught already taught and are continuing to teach, right? Your children how to navigate through society with boldness, calmly, with peace, for the grander purpose of this is our story and
Yeah.
we're going to walk it out and our life is essential.
Yes. Amen. Amen. Yes.
So
And my boys were essential, and that is why I stayed open.
that's right. So I just want to thank you for your time. Please don't like throw daggers at me. I haven't tasted your cheesecake yet. Okay.
Nope, that's okay.
But the blackberry cheesecake was just like I was salivating. I had to quietly, remove the saliva that was like an animal who sees the container of whipped cream, right? Um,
Yeah.
but that'll be my first to try is the blackberry cheesecake. And so I
Yeah.
thank you so much for your time.
Yes.
And
Thank you for having me.
yeah, and I look forward to interviewing any of your sons or all three at the same time. Whoever wants to jump on board with Shawn, I will just send it through your email and just
Okay.
I'll recognize it as it's Jen.
Yeah.
Jen's son. You know. So to all of our viewers, we thank you for coming on this episode of Sagionic 1027, and until our next broadcast, may the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon thee always. Blessings. Bye.